What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Bimmer Barn. Today's video kind of starts off with a weird story because if you've been following along with the 535 XI Wagon build, you'll know that in one of the first episodes I kind of diagnosed that I thought the car wasn't starting correctly because of a crank position sensor. Well, I went and replaced the crank position sensor and it's still having this weird issue on cold start, just not starting up the first time, second time, or third time even, and that's made it really hard for me to move the car around and work on other projects and stuff. So today we're finally gonna figure out what this weird electrical issue is. I'm thinking that it might have something to do with the throttle body, so we're gonna take it off of my 335i Wagon and hopefully swap it over, find out if it's broken or not. And I also have some spare parts that we can install, so why don't we go ahead and do some basic tests, maybe replace the camshaft sensors, and then just go from there and figure out why my car won't start. So we just swapped out those two camshaft sensors, and earlier we checked the fuel pressure, found that the fuel pump is working, although it's pretty quiet inside the car. I couldn't really hear it, but the low pressure fuel pump is definitely working, and the high pressure fuel pump doesn't need to work in order for the engine to start. It would just start in like a drivetrain malfunction. But anyways, let's go ahead and see if these new camshaft sensors are going to help the engine start any easier. Well, as you can see, no engine start. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and do a fault scan using INPA really quick, and this should give us some more information. Probably do like a fault clear and then see what kind of codes we're getting back for the crankshaft position sensor or for the camshaft position sensors. All right, all the faults are cleared. And I think now we can go ahead and we'll do a start sequence. Just press the start button once and then give it another fault read and see what faults it has. It went and started up, but we do have, it's idling all right. Nope, it's gonna do it. I guarantee it's gonna do that throttle valve thing in a second here. But let's go ahead and let's go back here. Let's do another vehicle test. And this way we can see what faults it has now. Definitely has some fault in the DME. Let's see what it is. And again, we've got two codes, both for the intake camshaft and the exhaust camshaft. Looks like they're kind of different looking codes. Camshaft sensor, exhaust sync. And this one says crankshaft to inlet camshaft synchronization. So honestly, look, we've got smoke coming out here of the engine. Let's go ahead and close the hood. Let's try to get this car parked in the garage, and then hopefully we can figure out more about what's going on. Well, the good thing is that the engine runs, and well, it started the first time there, but immediately after I put it in gear in the road there, it gave me a transmission malfunction. And after I pulled it into the garage here, I think we know why. It's because the battery is so low, and it started off at like 9 volts a minute ago, but I do have a charger on it, so it is charging up. But I think that's definitely a big part of our issue, is that we have a bad alternator, because the belt is on there, and I didn't really look closely, but I'm sure that it's spinning, and it's spinning the alternator. I do think that the oil oil filter stand is probably what caused that alternator to fail, just because so much oil getting on like the voltage regulator and stuff can definitely damage it, and I tend to see that a lot on these motors. So the other good news is that the valve cover leak is fixed. You know, I got the car parked in here and there's no oil running out of it like it was before. It was literally like pouring out. It is still burning some oil in the engine bay though. I'm sure that there's some on the side of the motor and the catalytic converters and such. So I'm sure that needs to burn off for a while, but we definitely need to worry about this alternator now in front of most other things, I'd say. I mean, we can get a throttle body for cheap off of eBay, but an alternator, that's something we might want to buy new, since this is going to be more of a reliable daily driver for me. So let's go ahead now, and while the battery charges up on the 535 Xi wagon, let's go ahead and pull off the throttle body from the 335i so we can test that and finally give a yay or nay as to whether my throttle body is what's causing that weird surging idle issue. It's been over 1,200 miles with the new turbos and not a single sign of oil here in the throttle body or inside of the charge pipe. So that tells me that those turbos that we got from eBay for $200, or what was it, $300, a good deal. I mean, you know, they're lasting so far, and this is just a factory tune. But we'll do a stage 1 plus or maybe a stage 2 tune very soon here in the future. For now though, let's go ahead and get this throttle body installed on the 535i wagon, and we are going to confirm if this is the problem with our car. Well, it turns out one of many, but I think we're gonna find a rabbit hole to go down of electrical gremlins. This throttle body we're gonna confirm here, and then soon enough we're gonna have to get a replacement alternator. But like I said, let's go ahead and install this thing. The new throttle body is in. Let's go ahead and turn the key to position 2. I'm gonna let it sit for 10 seconds. That should be long enough for the throttle body to initialize, and we should hear it make like a sweeping noise back and forth, and then maybe I'll give it a couple test pumps with the throttle. But let's go ahead and start the motor. Well, she's still not wanting to run correctly, and even though I went and did a throttle valve adaptation, I can't seem to get this throttle valve to move or anything. So what I'd like to do now is look at the E-box where we have the DME and check. I think there should be like some powertrain fuses there. Maybe some of them are related to the throttle body or the camshaft sensors. And then we'll go ahead and check the fuses inside the car in the glove box as well, just to make sure we don't have any other electrical gremlins with this thing before we move any further. But why don't we grab the power probe and check out all these fuses now. These are the fuses that I was talking about right here. It's a little box of 5 of them, and these are only powertrain related fuses. So we should be able to get the box kind of out here and manipulate it, get the cover off, and then we'll want to check every single one of those fuses. At least one of them is for the camshaft sensors, and so if that's a bad fuse, I definitely could see some problems with, like, you know, reading the timing and the car going into the drivetrain malfunction, those fault codes that we're getting. But hopefully maybe these fuses could also be related to the throttle body. So let's go ahead, pull that thing out, and start checking them. All right, well, we unfortunately broke off the top cap here. There is a proper way to remove this cap, and I didn't do that, and so I broke it, unfortunately, but I think I can get it back on there. And the good news is that we found a broken fuse here. So just 1 out of 5 of them, and this is the order that they go into, but 1 out of 5 is popped here. So I'm gonna grab a 30 amp fuse. We're gonna put it back inside that fuse box, and then we're gonna start this motor, and hopefully that has solved our problem. I can't believe I didn't look at this earlier, but honestly guys, it is so true what they say. Check your fuses first when you're trying to diagnose a car, because honestly, 7 times out of 10, it's gonna be a fuse related problem. All right, so we changed out that fuse, and I did a quick throttle valve learning procedure. I thought I could hear the throttle valve turning over, making noises, but I guess we're gonna find out right now. Let's go ahead and try to start the motor. Oh man, I'm so happy right now. Look at that, it's running all 6 cylinders, and we were able to use the throttle. So we know now that the car runs good. It was probably just a fuse. I think we can reinstall the old throttle body, make sure that that's working correctly before we were to put it in my wagon. But yeah, I'm so glad we figured this out, guys. Check it out. Oh boy.
Eventually.
Well, we've got the 335i wagon back together, and the 535i back together with the original throttle body that was in here before. I guess the only thing that I'm really curious about, since most of those codes, or I think all of them for the DME, went away, why don't we go ahead and try to start it one more time with the original throttle body. And what I want to see is if the alternator magically starts working, because a lot of times these electrical things, they can really be connected on the same communication line. Things can get disabled for no reason if there's like a safety procedure. But let's go ahead and see and test our alternator now and see if it's charging the battery. No way. No way. I almost don't believe my eyes right now. Look at that, it's charging, and it definitely wasn't doing that before. So that is great news to hear. We just fixed so many problems on this car because of one silly little fuse. Now, who would have thought it would have been something as simple as a friggin' little fuse that kept us from having a running motor, and all those problems, the throttle body, the alternator, camshaft codes, crankshaft codes, all these things stemming from a simple fuse in the e-box. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video, and hopefully you learned something as well. I know that I definitely did. I always forget to check the fuses first, but it's always a fuse. So definitely leave a like or a comment down below if you have any questions, and subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't yet. As always, I hope everyone has an amazing day, and we will see you next time.